Why the nice guy in Obsession is actually a monster. We've all heard the term nice guy. He's the underdog, the loyal friend who's always there, the guy who insists he just wants one chance. In almost any other movie, Bear, the protagonist of the 2026 indie horror film Obsession, would be the awkward romantic lead we're supposed to root for. But director Curry Barker does something far more unsettling. He tears away the nice guy mask and reveals something much darker underneath. A man driven by entitlement, obsession, and the belief that someone else's free will matters less than his own happiness. Today on The Cognitive Frame, we're breaking down the psychology of Bear. We'll explore why many people call Obsession a litmus test for its audience. Some viewers, particularly many men, see a heartbreaking story about rejection and the friend zone. Many women, however, see something entirely different, a horror story about losing autonomy and having your identity stripped away. So here's the question. Was Bear simply a victim of a supernatural curse? Or was the One Wish Willow nothing more than a tool that unleashed the darkest parts of who he already was? Let's get into it. Every horror villain has an origin story, and Bear's begins with a performance. The film opens with him rehearsing a confession of love. He talks about how Nikki was there for him after his grandmother died. On the surface, it sounds heartfelt, until we realize he isn't talking to Nikki at all. He's practicing on a waitress while his friend Ian coaches him like he's trying to beat a level in a video game. From the very first scene, Bear's love isn't really about Nikki. It's about himself. He never talks about her dreams, her personality, or the kind of person she is. He only talks about what she does for him. Psychologists have a word for this: limerence. It's an obsessive state where another person stops being a real human being and becomes a fantasy. Someone who exists to soothe your loneliness, insecurity, and emotional needs. Nikki isn't a partner in Bear's mind. She's an emotional addiction.
Then there's Sandy, the cat. After accidentally eating Bear's grandmother's oxycodone, Sandy dies. Bear breaks down crying, but then quietly stuffs the body into a garbage bag and throws it away like it's nothing. No goodbye, no burial, no respect. It's our first glimpse beneath the surface. Bear knows what grief is supposed to look like, but he doesn't truly process it. Instead, he immediately distracts himself by scrolling through Nikki's Instagram. The moment she calls, his tears instantly stop. Nikki isn't comforting him because she's Nikki. She's comforting him because she gives him emotional relief. She's become another coping mechanism. Then comes the moment that defines the entire film. Nikki tells Bear she's leaving their job to pursue her dream of becoming a writer. She also reveals something deeply personal. She admits she doesn't think she's capable of feeling love. It's an incredibly vulnerable moment. So how does Bear respond? Following Ian's terrible dating advice, he jokingly calls her Freaky Nikki, the exact nickname her childhood bullies used. When Nikki directly asks him if he has feelings for her, Bear freezes. Instead of telling the truth, he hides behind, "We're really good friends." She walks away believing their friendship is safe, but the audience now knows it never was. This is where Obsession reveals what it's really about. If your first reaction is, "Poor Bear, he got friend-zoned," you've completely missed the horror. The tragedy isn't that Bear was rejected. The tragedy is that Nikki believed she had a genuine friend. Instead, she discovers that every act of kindness came with hidden expectations. The friendship was conditional from the very beginning. And the moment she leaves the car, Bear commits his first truly unforgivable act. He refuses to accept her answer. He opens the One Wish Willow and says, "I wish Nikki Freeman loved me more than anyone in the entire world." Notice what he doesn't wish for. He doesn't wish for a chance. He doesn't wish for mutual love. He doesn't wish for Nikki's happiness. He wishes to overwrite her choice. He wishes to control her. As the curse takes hold, Freaky Nikki is born. She's no longer the woman Bear claimed to love. She's a distorted imitation. She vomits uncontrollably. She waits outside for hours without moving. She even serves Bear a sandwich containing his dead cat. The woman is gone. Only the obsession remains. And this is the point where Bear becomes almost impossible to defend. At the diner, he learns the truth. The real Nikki never loved him romantically. The lies, the desperate affection, the obsessive behavior. None of it is real. It's all the result of his wish. His friend even tells him that Nikki always saw him more like a younger brother. Given that information, any decent person would try to undo the damage. Bear doesn't. Instead, he calmly looks Nikki in the eyes and says, "It doesn't matter to me." That single sentence tells us everything. His happiness matters more than her humanity. The film then cuts to one of its most disturbing scenes. Bear and Nikki are in bed together. On the surface, it looks consensual. But look closer. While she's saying the right things, her eyes stare blankly into space. She's emotionally absent. Her free will has been erased. Bear knows this isn't the real Nikki. He knows she's trapped inside her own mind. And yet, he chooses to enjoy the fantasy anyway. Because as long as his desires are fulfilled, the real Nikki no longer matters. Bear's moral collapse reaches its peak when Nikki briefly breaks free from the curse. Terrified, she begs him, "Kill me, please, don't wake her up." Imagine hearing someone beg for death because of something you did. Bear's response? "What would be so bad about being with me?" Even while she's begging to escape, he's still trying to convince her she's making the wrong choice. That's not love, that's entitlement. Later, Sarah, the one person who genuinely liked Bear for who he really was, is brutally murdered. Instead of calling the police, Bear helps hide the body. By this point, he's no longer trapped by the curse. He's actively protecting it. He's become an accomplice because he's addicted to the illusion of being loved. Finally, we reach the ending. Bear locks himself in a bathroom with a gun and his grandmother's pills. At first, it looks like he's finally willing to sacrifice himself to free Nikki, but then comes one last revealing moment. After swallowing the pills, he immediately tries to make himself throw them back up. He wants the reward for being a martyr, without actually paying the price. Then Nikki makes her own wish. She wishes Bear loved her just as much as she loves him. For a few disturbingly sweet moments, they're both trapped under the curse, embracing one another while surrounded by the bodies of their dead friends. Then, Bear dies. The spell finally breaks. The real Nikki wakes up covered in blood, with her life completely destroyed. Not by a demon, not by a monster hiding in the woods, but by one man's inability to accept the word no. So, was Bear simply another victim of a cursed object? Or was the curse only revealing the person he had always been? Director Curry Barker has said the film explores the fear of rejection, the fear of being cringe, and even echoes the online man versus bear debate. But beneath all of that lies a much darker message. The most terrifying monsters aren't always supernatural. Sometimes they're ordinary people who convince themselves that someone else's freedom is a fair price to pay for their own happiness. So what do you think? Did Bear deserve a second chance? Or was he always the villain in Nikki's story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoy psychological deep dives into horror films, don't forget to subscribe to The Cognitive Frame. Remember, it's always deeper than you think.